I am born in Denmark by two parents who met each other in squats, which they turned into a publishing house for revolutionary texts. And then when I was 2, we moved to Mozambique because they started working for the Scandinavian Aid Organization. So they went there to do infrastructure and schools and education programs and things. I think I can trace my interest quite clearly back to this early childhood. Somehow an attempt at grappling with like a global reality and a relationship between, I suppose, the inequalities on a global plane, but as well combined with like the complexities of the ideas of like good guy syndrome and the fact that nothing is as simple as we'd like them to be when we see them from only one perspective. And I think that's something that I just can't get away from in my work. The Complete Works is a live piece where a retired dancer is being asked to perform all the choreographies she or he has ever done in their professional life, so performed in their professional life. And the dancer then, on the spot, in the space, relies on a combination of muscle memory and all other kinds of memories to conjure these choreographies in attempted chronological order. So the piece plays out basically in some space in between, like inner mental space of the dancer and in the ways that these choreographies then manifest themselves in the body of the dancer. We'll recognize these bits and pieces and they'll be familiar to us. And the relationship between the personal experience that the dancer is clearly having, going through their own life and their own memory, and the one that we're experiencing, which is basically like a deconstructed, kind of broken up series of movements, a new choreography made out of all these existing ones that we can decode somehow. The dancers are always asked to do this as a ritual kind of exercise, so it's never rehearsed and there's no props or any music or any support, so it's just the body and space and what the body carries that's available to the viewer. And the performances can last for like very different duration of time because it's relying entirely on the individual dancer's memory. I thought about, there's this piece, manual therapy that I did, which is made out of these massage chairs that have different metals that have been extracted from different places. So it's precious and noble metals. I took about 100 mobile phones and took all the good stuff out of there, and I had cables and currencies, and I even got like some gold teeth that have been taken out of my gallerist's mouth. It was all like a mix of these different metals that have had previous lives. And then the massage chair was moving and chewing on this, very literally kind of chewing on this material. And it became this messy bundle of all these metals, and somehow a process of thinking of the life of these things that move in and out of different objects. That a wedding ring can end up as someone's tooth or the other way around is a very kind of reality of how it is now worth more mining the electronics that we have than it is mining the earth, etc. I tend to try and make space for both the symbolic and the actual in the work. So if we take Plug, for example, I see the cigar equally as an outdated totem of patriarchy, as well as complicated kind of global trade objects, as well as life-threatening poison or proud old tradition, or like the object of the cigar carries all this with it, and we can shift in and out of seeing the cigar in the drain of a sink. It's a meeting of an industrial production tradition with a handcraft tradition, or it's a meeting of organic and produced, or it's a meeting of like feminine and masculine. And I like that it has this potential, like you can go down all these many routes, but the piece exists in the intersection of these many routes. It doesn't exist down the end of any of them. I'm interested in how objects are almost language, how we produce these things, but we produce them collectively, and it's this accumulative logic. And when that happens, it's not about the individual intention with the object. The object starts speaking for us and telling us things that we don't know ourselves. So some objects are produced with one intention, like the cigar, and then it moves on to a space where no one would be caught dead holding a cigar, because it's representing an old world order, and it's not only are people aware of it being unhealthy, but it's also become an outdated symbol that no one wants to be associated with. I was invited to do a public sculpture in Belgium, on the coast of Belgium, and they have a very famous kind of monument of King Leopold II on the beach. And I thought, like, placing other sculptures in the context of, or in the company of this figure was a difficult task. And my proposal then was to collect all the men on horses I could find from different antique stores around Europe and place them in the tide, so in the water. And so this ritual of the men appearing and disappearing on a daily basis that's playing out this kind of ebb and flow of power. And the sculptures I could find, the men on horses, it's a weird group. So it's like a Roman warrior and a polo player and a jockey and a English knight. Is this odd kind of formation, army formation of these guys. And I guess that's, again, the power of the generic. We have this image, the man on the horse, as a really powerful image. And the case of King Leopold sitting on the horse, it carries a lot of very specific things with it. But the minute you drown him in other men on horses, it like takes the power of the constellation to a completely different place. I actually did one piece before with a bronze knight that I found, and I cut him up and kept everything that depicted metal. So I was left with an armor, and then I recycled the remaining bronze. And the interesting thing was that when I bought that sculpture, the antique dealer told me that I was buying it at the price of the bronze, because he couldn't lower the price any further, because he's basically dealing in the raw material. So I think that's an interesting thing if we're talking about value. There is this neutral relationship. It becomes like a material again.